So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another blind reading. This time we're going to be reading Lost Episodes. So I was a bit skeptical about this story at first because Tat Stop Videos put it at number 1 in one of their videos. No, I'm just kidding. No offense to Tats. It's just that a lot of times I disagree with their choices on the lists. Like how they usually put Jeff the Killer very high on their lists. I don't get that because Jeff... I hate Jeff. And I don't care if you disagree with me. But then I realized, and then I found out that this story was written by Slime Beast, and Slime Beast has made quite a few good stories. Like Funny Mouth and Abandoned by Disney. Two stories that I liked. And then he wrote I Hate You, which is a terrible fucking story. But yeah, I think I've noticed with a lot of Slimebeast stories is that he writes very short paragraphs, like only two, like on the he writes very short paragraphs. This thing I've noticed, but I'm gonna read this one because it piqued my interest because now I noticed that Slimebeast was the author of this, so I kind of want to read this one. And it's a bit longer, so I like reading longer creepypastas sometimes. And sometimes I like to change it up with a little shorter stories. But this is a longer story, so I'm gonna read this right now, and it's gonna be funsies. And we're gonna see if it's as scary as Tats thinks it is. So yeah. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble here, so if you believe in haunted Lost Episode legends and enjoy living in that world, maybe this isn't the post for you. Don't get me wrong, I hate when people complain about lack of realism in entertainment. Oh, is this aimed at me? No, I'm just kidding. And I think all kids need to believe in Santa and the Tooth Fairy for as long as possible. But this is different. Back in the 80s, I met this dude, Sid, who used to cut old VHS tapes and shit. It was more than a hobby for him. It was pretty much his entire life. His parents were a bit more wealthy than I had been blessed with, so when we were teenagers I was slaving away at Scats. Yes, Scats, fast food restaurant is what I meant to say. He just hung out around the house, cutting tapes. All day, all night. Of course, as you get older, things in your past become a bit clearer, and I think he might have been borderline autistic. Or maybe he was a very high-functioning person with Asperger's. But of course, I'm no expert, and I'm not saying that was the case. It's just the best and quickest way I can think of to explain his personality, and this obsession with cutting tapes, cutting tapes, cutting tapes. It started when he saw Old Yeller as a little kid. Oh, that movie, that ending, For whatever reason, his parents let him watch that shit. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's the tale of a boy and his dog. I hope I don't have to announce the spoiler on such an old-ass movie, but in the end, the boy has to shoot his own dog because it's rabid. Yeah, it's terrible. Sid didn't appreciate this. His dad photographed and videotaped weddings, so he showed Sid how to operate some of the machines, and Sid cut out the ending, replacing it with an earlier, happier scene, as if Old Yeller just suddenly got better off screen. He watched the tape obsessively after that, even in his early teens when I had first met him. He made me watch it once to see how he fixed it, and I could actually picture him as a little boy once he started applauding and cheering with his own Fox ending. I don't want to say I was a bad influence, but after I saw I asked if he could do that with other movies. My major interest was perhaps taking a film or two and cutting in some nude frames the actresses hadn't really done. Don't worry though, I never had the guts to actually ask if he would. I just imagined how cool it would be. Often. Sid told me that, yes, he could fix any movie he wanted. In fact, he had done it with a few others. He had a copy of a Ghostbusters cartoon, and, I shit you not, every single ghost was completely removed. The story made no sense. There was no continuity, that's the word. But he had accomplished it, and I was very impressed. I guess in the time of VHS, these things seemed more magical than they do nowadays. As time went by, I encouraged Sid to edit more movies, but with different purposes. Instead of washing all the scary stuff like he'd wanted to do, I got him to see the light on how awesome he could make things. Somewhere out there, this chubby Star Wars nerd from our high school has all 3 original films flawlessly cut together with edited in effects that would have made Lucas himself cry out, "Enough meddling!" We charged him like $20 for the only copy, because we were idiots. Anyways, this went on for a while before I lost most of my interest in it. It was more of a goof for me than it was for him. This is the point when I started working, started driving, started talking bases with local girls. Well, he just got more and more involved in cutting those tapes. I think his favorites were cartoons. When The Simpsons came around, he went apeshit with those. Now his edit weren't so much fixing things, as just breaking them in interesting ways. Another thing that sticks out in my mind is when he recorded an episode of MASH and cut it out and cut it with a gory old war flick. Halfway through this version, the camp gets bombed, soldiers invade, everyone dies. At the end, he specifically worked in freeze frames of each cast member's face, eyes closed. He had completely reversed his interest and embraced what had once terrified him. Scary endings. He seemed to love things like long, drawn-out sequences in terrifying silence. He'd make me be quiet while they played, too. You may have heard about this mysterious fellow named Banksy, who goes around creating interesting graffiti and whatnot. At one point, he went into a music store and replaced some Paris Hilton CDs with his own fakes. Banksy had nothing to do with Sid. Wait, Banksy had nothing on Sid. That's what he meant. Oh, every other week he'd tell me about some store or a video rental place he'd snuck some of his tapes into. He swapped out the real ones for his versions, and then he'd start all over by cutting the ones he had stolen. Let me just scroll down a little. At one point, when I hadn't heard from him in a long while, I stopped by his parents' house and found him in the garage. He'd set up his own little movie studio there, complete with a drawing board. He was actually animating entirely new content. All at once I was blown away by his artistic skill I'd never seen before, and very concerned about when this guy was going to come out of the dark and start acting normal, like me. He barely looked up from his drawings as we spoke. I asked him what any kid, now in his late teens, would ask. "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Huh? Seriously, dude, this is some crazy shit. It's work. I'm working. My work is just as important as anyone else's. Are you even selling these anymore? Or are you just sneaking them into places? How much is all of this costing your dad? I don't care. I looked at what he was so fervently illustrating. Is that a headless body? Dancing? Yeah. Well, that's pretty dark, man. I know, that's the point. Well, I don't get it. Those tapes, I thought they were wrong, but over time, I figured out the truth. Which is... the scary stuff is right. The happy endings are the lie. Oh, this is getting intriguing. He just kept drawing as I stood there. The silence was disturbing, and in that moment I could smell the BO coming off of him. It wasn't just sweat either. It was a mingling of that and a foul ass and piss-soaked cloth. I hate to say it, but I gave up on him right then. It's that moment when you look at someone you thought you knew, and all that you can think is, holy shit, I never realized they were this far gone. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that Sid crossed my mind again. I was pursuing the internet, just aimlessly wandering the web, when I came across a series of urban legends about strange VHS tapes, recut movies, and lost episodes. Some of these I recognized. I'd watched them with Sid, or I'd actually seen him in the middle of working on them. Every disturbing scene, every unbelievable anecdote, I believed it, because I had been there. Others, SpongeBob cartoons, episodes of iCarly, or whatever, those shows came long after I'd make my break with Sid, but the style was all too familiar. Even the ones that didn't sound like his work seemed like they could have been broken copies or attempts at mimicking his work. He was still doing it. My God, it boggled my mind. I called up Sid's old number, not entirely sure I'd still find him there. It rang for minutes on end, and I knew that the search was hopeless. Even if he still lived with his parents, it wasn't likely that they'd all still be at the same house by now. Still, I made it a point to drive out to his old place, to see if he was still in that garage cutting tapes, or manipulating them via computer, or whatever he would be up to. When I passed by the house, the unkept lawn was overgrown with huge, waist-like weeds. The dilapidated facade, that's how you say it, not facade, goddammit, facade is how you say it, of the building, with its peeling paint, why do I sound so weird? With peeling paint on the shutters, missing roof tiles, and muck-filled gutters, told me no one had lived there for a long time. I saw a note on the door, but couldn't read it from the road. Maybe it was something I could use to locate Sid and see if he had ever gotten the help I now realized I should have given him. Pulling into the driveway, my headlights illuminated the garage door. It was windowless and vandalized with the gangster tags of some traveling band of assholes. The note on the door, as one might expect, spoke of a certain bank now owning the property. It noted that trespassing was heavily discouraged, and that at a certain point, someone would be out to make sure the house was winterized, whatever the hell that is. As I walked back to the car, defeated, something was nagging me. I knew that Sid's parents kept a spare key under a false rock by the back stairs, basically by virtue of Sid locking us both out on several occasions. When I found that key, a sense of cold, gnawing dread swirled in my stomach. Who would move out and leave everything in a place like this? Leave everything in place like this. The key was the most obvious thing, but flower pots and lawn decorations were still there. Sid's old, rusted-out Huffy bike was leaning against the house, and had created thick, rusty streaks along the aluminum siding. Oh god. I was about to scroll down, but I screwed up. Let's see here. Where was I? There. God damn it. Sorry for this, but... Alright. I didn't even know what I expected to find, but using the key, I entered the house. The smell was overwhelming. Not a putrid smell, nothing rotten or decaying, just the smell of... I don't know if this would make any sense to you, but the smell of electricity. Like burning dust on a light bulb or a heater giving off a peculiar warmed metal odor. This was the least of my concerns, however, as I saw everything just as I had left it. Everything Sid's family owned was frozen in time. The dining room table we'd all sat on at many occasions was dust-covered and supported an emaciated dead rat, which had all but turned to dust. The television, that bulky, oversized television set we'd all sat around to watch Sid's tapes and laud his creativity. It sat where it had always been, silently displaying a violent bombardment of black and white static. As I moved through the rooms, the sense of panic and discomfort within me only grew. Every fiber of my being was shouting, "Run! Run, you fucking idiot!" Still, I pressed on into Sid's bedroom. It was now empty and in disrepair. His priced action figures and blank videotapes. Hundreds of videotapes. Stale and water damaged. I almost wanted to call out, to shout, "Zid!" and wait for him to appear, as if nothing was out of the ordinary. I went to his parents' bedroom. Holy shit. There, lying in bed, were two motionless bodies. Gaunt, grey, half turned to dust, just like the rat in the dining room. I could scarcely believe what I was seeing with my own eyes. Not only were two dead bodies slowly dissipating within the confines of this once idyllic suburban household, but nobody had even checked on them. Nobody had discovered this until now. My mind raced, my heart raced. The only things that would move were my feet, which remained glued to the spot. Sid, I thought, must have done this. There was no way the two of them would just lie down one night and simultaneously die of natural causes. Sid had said he didn't care about his parents, and... When was the last time I had seen them? God, I hadn't seen them for days, maybe weeks before the last time I talked to Sid. When I finally left the room, I took out my cell phone and began dialing 911. However, as soon as I lifted it to my head, an ear-splitting shriek of interference nearly caused me to fling the object across the room. I rushed to the kitchen phone, squealing static. I tried the living room phone just to be thorough. Static. It wasn't until I put the receiver back down that I heard it. Music. Faint, bearably audible music that I hadn't noticed before. It seemed to be some repeating melody. Happy and light. Some flutes, maybe a whole horn section. It was Living in the Sunlight by Tiny Tim. Just kidding! I followed the peppy tune to the in-house door to the garage, pressing my ear to the door's dirty surface. I determined that the music was indeed coming from just beyond. Sid? I called out, barely managing to form the name with cold, bloodless lips. Sid? Are you in there? Are you alright? I tried the door only to find somehow locked from the other side. Somehow locked from the other side. It was no matter, since one wild kick nearly knocked the rotting door off knocking wood off its hinges. Sid! I shouted as the dust slowly cleared. Through the haze, I could only see the light of a television screen. Vibrant colors. Blue, green, yellow. Soon, I could make out a cartoon playing on the screen. Then, the silver wires running from the set itself to some dark mass. Then, the dark mass took shape as my eyes adjusted to the odd lighting. It was Sid, or rather, his body. Not dead nearly as long as his parents, seated in an old office chair. The wires from the television set led directly to his body, eventually disappearing into several old, crusted-over holes, his leathery flesh. Through a small worm-eaten opening in his ribs, I thought I could see more metal inside of him. What? I walked to Sid's side, holding my hand over my mouth for fear of vomiting. His face was twisted into a hideous, wide grin. His empty eye sockets almost seemed happy, hooded by a pleased bro line. Hi there! I heard a jarring voice. The voice was upbeat, high-pitched. It sounded almost like Sid, but different. Bubbly, cartoony. I turned to the screen. The green grass, the blue sky, the yellow flowers, and Sid. A perfect caricature of him. It strolled along the infinite loop of that utopian cartoon background. It waved to me. Sid, I whispered. Oh God, Sid. He, the cartoon version of him, turned his attention away from me and continued to merrily stroll across that unending cycle of the same backdrop. He paused a shrub, then passed it again, and again. The same bluebird, chirping happily, flew through the sky in a figure eight. Sid. I shook my head, unable to comprehend the scenario. I never should have let you leave reality. I thought about what Sid had done to his mom and dad. I thought about how the bank would come by soon, and this would all come to light. I watched Sid walk along for nearly half an hour. Then, I unplugged the set. And that was Lost Episodes. I didn't get the ending, and wow, that only took me 19 minutes. Wow, I thought it was going to take a lot longer, but that only took me 19 minutes. Well, Lost Episodes, what did I think of it? I thought it was quite alright. It wasn't as scary as I wanted it to be, because it was at number 1 in Tad's Top Videos Lost Episodes list. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, or as I wanted it to be. And that ending almost ruined it for me. What with him being like a cartoon version of himself? I don't get it. Why was he... How did he get, like... I don't know... How did he get, like... the cables of the TV? How did it get, like... I don't understand. How did it happen? And I like how how the author tries to, defend it in the beginning by going, "Oh, you complain about the lack of realism. This isn't that realistic." But that doesn't excuse the fact that it is very unrealistic, and I don't understand. Why did that happen? Why did he become a cartoon? I don't get it. But yeah, it was still fairly well written. I liked it. But I'd probably give it more like a 7 out of 10 or like 6.5 out of 10 because that ending just kind of ruined it. So let's look at some of these comments. I don't need to review this. JonTron said it best. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, best story, best story. Yeah, it was alright. Oh, this is a long comment. Oh god, this is very long comment. But apparently it's good. So I'm gonna read this comment because it only took me like 20 minutes to finish the story. This is one of the few stories in which it's rather painful to scroll through these comments and watch as everybody gives it the story incredibly high scores. I think it's about time I went ahead and fixed that, but I have a lot of ground to cover if I am to explain my dislike effectively. Slime Beast seems to have a very specific emotion captured on a few of his stories, and that is sarcasm. He does this very well in Funny Mouth, but it is one of the major flaws of the story. When a thing that is supposed to be creepy occurs early in the story, he always kind of has some sarcastic thought or weird detail. For example, the main character in Sid just had a little conversation revealing how Sid feels about his new versions of things, and how he believes the old happy endings to just be a lie. However, right after that, the protagonist says the following. He just kept drawing as I stood there, the silence was disturbing, and in that moment I could smell the BO coming from it. It wasn't just sweat either, it was the mingling of that and a foul ass and piss-soaked cloth. Why would you bother bringing that up? Literally, you could have had something of an unsettling moment. Then you bring up this kind of sarcastic remark, and an unnecessary detail that really should have either been summed up before the conversation, or not referenced at all. This person is actually making sense. There are plenty more examples of stuff like this, and I could certainly dig through some more for you, but I have to get to some of my other problems. First, the creepy stuff is not creepy. This is mainly because of the concept. Don't get me wrong, this does have an interesting and original concept, but it has to kind of focus on very poor source material. Since last episode pastas are very cliche and not very scary, anything revolving around the stuff Sid created is usually cliche and not very scary. Sure, there is some conversations about Sid's mind which could be interesting and disturbing, but they are usually, again, interrupted by the sarcastic writing style. The ending is not cliche, but that is something that I want to address later. I'm not looking forward to it. Next, I should probably go ahead and say why this concept actually only works for a few Lost Episode pastas. This doesn't really affect the story itself, but I simply noticed such stories such as Dead Bart, Suicide Mouse.avi, The Amazing World of Gumball the Grieving, The Black Friday Incident, and many more, all state that the creators of each of these episodes/films were the actual creators of the source material. Therefore, a bit of credibility is lost when this pasta only applies to a couple stories. Oh wait, so is the author implying in Lost Episodes that that Sid was the creator of like every Lost episode? And like the fact that most Lost Episode creepypastas is the VHSs that they find was Sid who created them? I don't know, maybe it's a theory, 10 out of 10, I don't know. For a Slime Beast story, there are very few grammatical errors, which I usually never notice in his stories. Or wait, there are a few grammatical errors, which I usually never notice in the stories. Possibly this is due to the rather poor plot. Sometimes, Slime Beast brings up random things only to never mention them or explain what they did with it again. For example, somewhere out of nowhere, this chubby Star Wars nerd from our high school has all 3 original films flawlessly cut together, with edited in special effects that would have made George Lucas himself cry out enough meddling. We charged him like $20 for the only copy because we were idiots. Alright then, really pointless and really doesn't add much to what you already said about how much of a great animator Sid was, but if you build up upon it or have it have some relevance to the plot, it might work. Of course, it is never mentioned again. This person is actually making a lot of sense. Props to this person. A Grimex blah 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 1. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. but you're making sense. Now, it appears I must address the ending. I have looked at many angles to see how this ending could possibly work and be scary, and nothing works. Slimebeast starts building up this horrific thing. The parents are dead. The sarcastic tone is kind of there, but it's starting to fade away. And then Slimebeast threw his keyboard to the ground and said, "Screw it, I can't think of an ending, so I'm just gonna write random stuff down and hope it works." Sid being a cartoon character is incredibly stupid, yes it is. I might have taken it seriously if it was written very dramatically, and Sid said absolutely nothing, but that does not happen. However, that is the only reason why this doesn't work. That is not the only reason why this does not work. The thing is that the twist itself is an awful twist. Sid showed that he hated the happy endings and he liked the new and more dark endings, so it makes perfect sense that he would put himself in one of the happiest environments ever, sarcasm. Oh, I see what you did there, because Slimebeast puts in sarcasm and you put in sarcasm. Secondly, where's his motivation? Sid was just shown to be obsessed with doing this whole thing with tapes and maybe a bit insane, but they never suggest him wanting to essentially kill himself and possibly his parents. Exactly! You are making sense! You are a genius! Lastly, this twist would never, ever work in reality. What would they have a sign saying a bank bought the property and yet allow all their stuff to remain there, leave the power on, and not even bother to investigate the house or conduct any search for these dead people? It makes no sense, and completely makes this story fail. In total, I dislike this pasta for quite a few reasons. It fails as a creepypasta, and it fails as being an entertaining story. There are elements and moments that may made it kind of interesting sometimes, but overall, it really doesn't work. 3 out of 10. Jesus Christ, that is spot on. That is, Jesus Christ, that is spot on. Seriously, that really pointed out a lot of the flaws in the story. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10 after reading that, not a 7 out of 10, a 6 out of 10. Or maybe even like a 5.5 out of 10, I don't know. That was some very, very good criticism. So let's see how they responded. People responded, "You are spot on with Slimebeast's writing style and how it fails in this and many other stories he has written. I completely agree with you, and I'm glad that at least one person on this wiki doesn't say all hail Lord Slimebeast. Yeah, Slimebeast, he's made some good stories and some that don't work as well. Like fucking I Hate You, that story sucks in my opinion. Would in be permanent? Yeah, I'm pretty sure every writer has their highs and lows. Even good writers do lows, but at least they get aware of them eventually. I think Slimebeast actually got aware of how I Hate You is not a very good story, so at least props to him for that. I get what you're saying, but it's super subjective. For example, Star Wars thingamajingy. This for me was to show by that time Sid was already a master of what he does, but at the time we're still innocent little kids who would still let's see what other people say. This puzzle was great, and then I read the ending. For me, the ending ruins the story in many ways. The ending disrupts the state of reality that the story puts you in, and it actually manages to taint and ruin the story as a whole. So, while I do like most of Slimebeast's works, this one sort of sucks. 4 out of 10. Yeah. Really have to agree with you on the ending. The story builds up a great origin for lost tapes, paints this great plausible psychological setting, then throws it completely out the window in the closing paragraphs. Yeah. 9 out of 10, love the twist ending, and the whole premise is very interesting and original. Really nice, can't wait to try your other stories. 8 out of 10. Like always, Slimebeast delivers on the goods, but for some reason the ending has always made me go, why? I don't know, it was just it was very realistic and psychological, until he became one with the TV. But other than that, I really do like the way it tries to bind all these last episode pastas into one, and make them all connected in a hidden way. Every time I hear the name Sid, I think of Sid Barrett. Actually, this past pasta sounds like something that Sid Barrett would do. 9.5 out of 10. How would the story earn the remaining 0.5 out of 10? Just wondering. Oh my sweet god, I enjoy this. Good job, 10 out of 10. I especially like this comment. Ending kinda sucked, but it was awesome. 9.5 out of 10. Keep up the good. I hated the ending, but whatever, it's a good story. 9.5 out of 10. Near perfection. even though the ending was awful. Yeah, right. Ugh. 10 out of 10. The ending twist was amazing. Oh, no, it wasn't. God damn it. The ending that he turned himself into a cartoon by suicide, but hey, it's a good read. Ah. I think he might have been borderline autistic, or maybe he was a very high-functioning person with Asperger's. Oh, fuck you. I generally love your stuff, but lazy shit like this in our culture is why Alex Sporadelic blah blah is dead, and Kaylee blah blah gets to go on Dr. Phil like she's some kind of victim. You normal people are both statistically and anecdotally way scarier and more likely to commit murder than we are. And seriously, just a evil because not right in the head trope. As I say, it's lazy and simplistic from a writing perspective, aside from being bigoted. Yeah, the people are making sense here. I agree completely. It's nice to know someone is also upset by these inaccurate portrayals of us, but this isn't as bad as some I have read or TV portrayals, which are just degrading. These misconceptions are widespread, and because the general public is a mass of sheep, these views have worked their way into societal images of autism and Asperger's. Not to sound like an asshole, but as the writer's stories constantly have the villain diagnosed or blah 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 blah. A lot of oh my god, I've been reading comments for 11 minutes. That took way longer than I intended it to. Sorry if that went a little overboard, but yeah, there were a lot of very interesting comments that a lot of people wrote, and a lot of them were very intelligent. Especially that one, the one that I read, the very long one. That was a very intelligent comment that really did point out a lot of flaws in the story. So I'd rate the story possibly a 6 out of 10, maybe a 5.5 out of 10. It was okay, but in the end it didn't make a lot of sense, and the ending just completely ruined everything in my opinion. So yeah, thanks for suggesting the story, and thanks for listening to all of this, even the comment reading. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay awesome. Here's to future videos. Goodbye.